How many of your friends have been spending the day after Christmas going out and shopping? Here we are now on a Tuesday morning. A lot of folks going back to work. Some people still on vacation. Some people just, going through the motions of going back to work. There's been some news developments that people ought to know about, and yet they probably aren't talking about. For instance, did you know about the Chinese aircraft carrier that went between China and Taiwan yesterday? It's something that has raised tensions all throughout the entire region. Japan noticed a big movement of ships, not just the aircraft carrier, but a couple of destroyers as well on Saturday. And then on Sunday, a couple of those broke away. And then on Monday, that aircraft carrier went in between the strait. It's an obvious show of force by the Chinese. They say that the aircraft carrier is on its way to the Pacific for exercises. Okay, something to keep an eye on, because the United States does this kind of thing all the time, and nobody bats an eye. The Chinese do it, and everybody goes, ooh, what are they doing? Well, they're doing what we do. Also, a couple of news stories over the holidays about China testing the so-called EM drive, the electromagnetic drive that basically propels spacecraft without using any kind of fuel source. This stuff is science fiction, right? Well, NASA published a peer-reviewed study earlier this year about it, and now the Chinese apparently have taken that study and are doing something with it. They say they've already tested it in low Earth orbit, and they hope to have all of their satellites using the EM drive sometime soon. Now, of course, all we have to go on are some press releases and Chinese-run media, so how trustworthy is that? GizaDeathStar.com has an interesting write-up on that. The NATO envoy from Russia says that Russia's ambassador's murder, remember when the ambassador from Russia to Turkey was assassinated, it's challenging the whole world community right now, and the world needs to get together and focus on terrorists together. Not likely to happen. I'm just saying at this point, everybody's pointing fingers at everybody else, right? That typhoon that hit the Philippines on Christmas, Nock-Ten, actually killed 4 people. It wasn't nearly as bad as they were fearing it might be as it was heading toward Manila. It actually kind of swerved away from Manila. It did take out a number of trees and power lines, that kind of thing. And again, only 4 people died. But for those families affected, obviously, it means the world to them. Something to keep in mind. The Tu-154 jet that went down on Christmas Day in the Black Sea, they have recovered the pilot. They picked up a piece of the plane's fragment from the bottom of the ocean and found his body. So far, though, they've only found fragments from the other bodies. I'm not sure how fast that plane was hitting when it hit the water, but that's it doesn't sound exactly just like engine failure at this point. Obviously, they're going to have to do some research. They've not ruled out terrorism, by the way. A Turkey cafe boss has been taken to jail for making an insult against the president of Turkey. I guess he was delayed because of some road closures, because the president was giving a speech, and he mentioned to a police officer, I wouldn't serve him a cup of tea. That so-called insult got him arrested, and he's facing a possible jail term of 4 years. You talk about freedom of speech. The president of Turkey, since the failed coup attempt earlier this year, and again, a lot of people have wondered whether or not it was actually even a coup attempt, or maybe even something orchestrated by the president of Turkey himself in order to garner more power for himself. People are like, oh, we need protecting. Please, you criticize the president, you ought to go to jail for that. Really? Something to keep in mind when you hear the phrase free speech. What does that really mean? Isn't it supposed to protect speech that you don't agree with? Not in Turkey. And Russian investments in Bosnia apparently are making some headlines right now for being exceptionally important. They're talking about some Russian oil and gas developments in Bosnia, as well as produce being shipped back and forth. So, interesting little tidbit as far as that goes, especially given my own personal connections to Bosnia, going back to when I was in the military and I served 12 months on the ground in Bosnia. It's fascinating to me to see this former province of the former Yugoslavia being treated as an actual country, finally, after I don't know how many years it's been. Something to keep in mind, and keep your eye out for real news. You see something, send me an email, steve@radiofreespeech.com. You like what I'm doing, please support me either by buying a subscription on my website, radiofreespeech.com, or by becoming a sponsor at Patreon. You'll find the links, and remember, tell all your friends, radiofreespeech.com. Thanks.